Hey guys, just a quick, well, not super quick, but it'll be quicker than usual. Little devotion for us today, but uh, y'all were going back and forth last night about just some different thoughts, and wanted to give us one as a group, and of course as individuals. But want to end with kind of a question for us each too. But we'll be in First Timothy chapter 5 today, and it's a little bit different mindset right now, as we all know, and don't have to be reminded. But church is a little different than it has been over the last few weeks, as it has been compared to anything in our lifetime. But usually might miss a Sunday or a Wednesday or something like that, or a week for vacation, but missing each other for several weeks and potentially maybe even a couple more. It's a little different, but usually when you say the word church, your mind kind of goes probably to the building itself. I'm in our office building. We have a worship center. We've got the old middle building. We've got the FLC with the gym and the youth group, the youth room. So usually when we say church, kind of we think of the place where we go to play games, where Pastor Ron preaches, where we have our youth room, but it's the place we go to on Sundays and Wednesdays, where we maybe you get dressed up, to show up. You fight traffic to get here. You hope to get a good seat, and that's kind of what we think about is the location. But we lose sight of the fact that really we are the church. And if you've turned to First Timothy chapter 5, really want to just look at maybe two or three verses. First Timothy chapter 5, and look at verse 16 and 17. It says, "If any woman who is a believer has widows in her family, she should help them and not let the church be burdened with them, so that the church can help those widows who are really in need. The elders who direct the affairs of the church well are worthy of double honor, especially those who work is preaching and teaching." And really, if you want to back up and just read verses 1 and 2 also, it says, "Do not rebuke an older man harshly, but exhort him as if he were your father. Treat younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, and younger women as sisters with absolute purity." First Timothy chapter 5 describes church as people who are dedicated to serving each other, to reaching out, to taking care of their own. It doesn't mention a geographical place. It doesn't mention a building. It doesn't mention the resources. But if you look in verses 1 and 2, it talks about our relationships that we have with older men and around us. Not to rebuke them harshly, but to respect them. It says to treat them as if they were your father. It says to treat younger men as our brothers, and to treat older women as our mothers, and younger women as sisters with absolute purity. I don't know about y'all. I'm the younger brother of two sisters, and I can tell you there's quite a few fights I got into growing up, trying to protect my sisters, defend them, defend their honor. Same thing if somebody says something about your parents or your mom, your dad, you're gonna defend them. It's your right, it's your privilege, it's your burden to protect, to care for, and to love them. But everything in First Timothy chapter 5, when it talks about church, it doesn't talk about a place. It doesn't talk about First Baptist Jerusalem, or First Presbyterian of Bethlehem, or anything like that. It talks about the people, and it talks about our relationships. We had in 1 Timothy 5, 16 and 17 that we read first. It talks about women who have a widow's ministry and take care of women in the church who have lost their loved ones, and lost their source of income, and lost their provider. It talks about the elders who direct the affairs of the church, and it talks about ones who preach and teach. And we have the same responsibilities in our church to be the church, to serve, to reach out, to do whatever we can to reach those. But it starts out with caring for each other. So obviously right now one of our tasks, one of our missions is to encourage each other to continue to do things like this, to text each other, to check in on each other. Maybe send a note. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I love getting real mail, snail mail, what they call it. It's how we used to do it back in the day. And it was always cool to get a letter, to get a birthday card, from grandma with $5 in it or something like that. You don't have to put money in it, but think about, especially right now, maybe those in nursing homes who cannot have visitors and probably didn't get a whole lot of visitors to begin with, but especially right now. And maybe some of them may not even understand what's happening right now and need some encouragement and would love to get a card. Like, how about we write cards to people in the nursing homes? But things like that. But caring for each other, caring for our families, reaching out to those who are in need. I think every one of us probably can think of several people right now who have a lot of questions about what's going on, and about maybe dealing with some disappointments in their lives or depressing thoughts. And we can certainly reach out to them. We can't simply sit back and wait for Pastor Ron, to do church things and to be the church. Each one of us has been given abilities and gifts and skills and the opportunity to serve and to be the church. As a believer, Scripture makes it clear that we have a spiritual gift. And it might be up to us right now to be a little more creative, as to think of how do we use that? How can we use that? But if women were ministering to the widows, the elders were keeping the church in order. You had other elders who were preaching and teaching. You and I each have gifts and opportunities right now to serve in different ways, but we don't get an excuse to not, just because we can't go to a church building doesn't mean that you and I are not still the church. And every time the word church is mentioned in Scripture, it's always a reference to the people. Always. When Jesus said, "Upon this rock I will build my church," he wasn't talking about Pleasant Plains Baptist Church or First Baptist Jerusalem or anything like that. He was talking about his people coming together and ministering to others and reaching others and sharing with them the love of Christ. And God uses you and I to change people's lives. And so right now we might have a little more difficult task before us as to how do we do that, but we still are called to and commanded to do that. So I want to ask y'all with a question, and you can respond in group text, but what is, and I want each of us to have maybe some different ideas. I don't want everybody to just say, "Hey, here's an idea," and then everybody say, "Oh, that's a good one." That might be a good one, but let's have several different ideas. What's something that you and I can do? Maybe as individuals, it might be something you do on your own, but let's think of something we can do as a group and say, from Pleasant Plains Baptist Church youth group, what can we do to minister in this time? It starts with, if you read through 1 Timothy 5, it says start with your family and your parents and your siblings, your grandparents. They might be nearby or might be in your own home right now. But start with them. Share with them the love of Christ. But beyond those walls, outside of your own home, how can you and I minister to our community that we can't go to church with right now? We can't go to 3316 Pleasant Plains Road, but we have churches all over Matthews and Indian Trail and Stallings and Mint Hill and Charlotte and wherever the far reaches are that we all live. We have churches everywhere. So what can we do to be the church, guys? Let me hear from you. Love you guys.